In merry England in the time of old, when good King Henry II ruled the land, there lived within the green glades of Sherwood Forest, near Nottingham town, a famous outlaw whose name was Robin Hood. No archer ever lived who could speed a grey goose shaft with such skill and cunning as his, nor were there ever such yeomen as the 70 merry men that roamed with him through the greenwood shades. Right merrily they dwelled within the depths of Sherwood Forest, suffering neither care nor want, but passing the time in merry games of archery or bouts of cudgel play, living upon the king's venison, washed down with draughts of ale of October brewing. This band dwelled apart from other men, yet they were beloved by the country people round about, for no one ever came to jolly Robin for help in time of need, and went away again with an empty fist. And now I will tell you how it came about that Robin Hood fell afoul of the law. When Robin was a youth of 18, stout of sinew and bold of heart, the Sheriff of Nottingham proclaimed a shooting match, and offered a prize of a butt of ale to whomsoever should shoot the best shaft in Nottinghamshire.
Now will I go too, for fain would I draw a string for the bright eyes of my lass and a butt of good October brewing.
So up he got and took his good stout yew bow and a score or more of broad cloth-yard arrows, and started off from Locksley town, through Sherwood Forest to Nottingham. Sweet was the greenwood as he walked along its paths, and bright the green and rustling leaves, amid which the little birds sang with might and main. And blithely Robin whistled as he trudged along, thinking of Maid Marian and her bright eyes, for at such times a youth's thoughts are wont to turn pleasantly upon the lass that he loves the best. Suddenly he came upon some foresters, seated beneath a great oak tree. 15 there were in all, making themselves merry with feasting and drinking as they sat around a huge pasty, to which they helped themselves, thrusting their hands into the pie, washing down that which they ate with great horns of ale, which they drew all foaming from a barrel that stood nigh. Each man was clad in Lincoln green, and a fine show they made, seated upon the sward beneath that fair spreading tree.
Hello, where goest thou, little lad, with thy 1 penny bow and thy farthing shaft?
Now my bow and arrows are as good as thine, and moreover I go to the shooting match at Nottingham town, which same has been proclaimed by our good sheriff of Nottinghamshire.
So he has indeed.
There I will shoot with other stout yeomen, for a prize has been offered of a fine butt of ale.
Oh, listen to the lad. Why, boy, thy mother's milk is yet scarce dry upon thy lips, and yet thou pratest of standing up with good stout men at Nottingham? Thou who art scarce able to draw one string of a 2-stone bow.
I'll wager the best of you 20 marks that I hit the clout at 80 rods by the help of our good Lady Fair.
Well boasted, thou fair infant, well boasted. And well thou knowest that no target is nigh to make good thy wager.
He'll be taking ale with his milk next.
Harkye! Yonder at the glade's end I see a herd of deer, even more than 80 rods distant. I'll hold you 20 marks that by leave of Our Lady I cause the best heart among them to die.
No, done, and here are 20 marks. I'll wager thou causest no beast to die, with or without the aid of Our Lady.
Then Robin took his good yew bow in his hand, and placing the tip at his instep, he strung it right deftly. Then he knocked a broad cloth-yard arrow and, raising the bow, drew the grey goose feather to his ear. The next moment the bowstring rang and the arrow sped down the glade as a sparrowhawk skims in a northern wind. High leapt the noblest deer of all the herd, only to fall dead, reddening the green path with his heart's blood.
Ah, how likest thou that shot, good fellow? I knew the wager were mine if it were 300 pounds.
Nay, nay, the wager's none of thine, and get thee gone straightway, or by all the saints of heaven, I'll baste thy sides until thou'lt never be able to walk again.
Knowest thou not that thou hast killed the king's deer?
Aye.
And by the laws of our gracious lord and sovereign King Harry, thine ears should be shaven close to thy head.
Catch him!
Nay, nay, let him go because of his tender years.
Never a word said Robin Hood, but he looked at the foresters with a grim face. Then, turning on his heel, strode away from them down the forest glade. But his heart was bitterly angry, for his blood was hot and youthful, and prone to boil.
I'll hurry thee anon, thou overbold lad.
Of a sudden, without any warning, one of the foresters sprang to his feet and seized upon his bow and fitted it to a shaft. It was well for Robin Hood that that same forester's head was spinning with ale, for the arrow whistled within 3 inches of Robin's head. He turned around and quickly drew his own bow and sent an arrow back in return.
He said I was no archer, but say so now again.
The shaft flew straight. The archer fell forward with a cry,
Why, he's killed.
and lay on his face upon the ground, his arrows rattling about him from out of his quiver, the grey goose shaft wet with his heart's blood. Then, before the others could gather their wits about them, Robin Hood was gone into the depths of the greenwood. Some started after him, but not with much heart, for each feared to suffer the death of his fellow. So presently they all came and lifted the dead man up and bore him away to Nottingham town.
Alas, thou hast found me an archer that will make thy wife to weep, poor forester. I would that thou hadst ne'er said one word to me, or that I had never passed this way, or e'en that my right forefinger had been cut off before this happened. In haste I smote, but grieve I sore at leisure.
And so Robin Hood came to dwell in the greenwood that was to be his home for many a year to come. Never again to see the happy days with the lads and lasses of sweet Locksley town. For he was outlawed, not only because he had killed a man, but also because he had poached upon the king's deer, and 200 pounds was set upon his head as a reward for whoever would bring him to the court of the king. So Robin lay hidden in Sherwood Forest for 1 year, and in that time there gathered around him many others like himself, cast out from other folk for this cause or for that. Some had shot deer in hungry winter time, when they could get no other food. Some had been turned out of their inheritance, that their farms might be added to the king's lands in Sherwood Forest. Some had been despoiled by a great baron or a rich abbot, or a powerful esquire. All, for one cause or another, had come to Sherwood to escape wrong and oppression. Up rose Robin Hood one merry morn when all the birds were singing blithely among the leaves, and up rose all his merry men, each fellow washing his head and hands in the cold brown brook that leaped laughing from stone to stone.
For 14 days we have seen no sport. So now I will go abroad to seek adventures forthwith. But tarry ye, my merrymen all, here in the greenwood. Only see that ye mind well my call. 3 blasts upon the bugle horn I will blow in my hour of need, then come quickly, for I shall want your aid.
So saying, Robin strode away through the leafy forest glades. He took a road by the forest skirts, a bypath that dipped toward a broad, pebbly stream, spanned by a narrow bridge made of a log of wood. As he drew nigh this bridge, he saw a tall stranger coming from the other side. Thereupon, Robin quickened his pace, as did the stranger likewise, each thinking to cross first.
Now stand thou back, and let the better man cross first.
Nay, then stand back thine own self, for the better man, I wot, am I.
That will we presently see. But meanwhile stand thou where thou art, or else by the bright brow of Saint Elfrida I will show thee right good Nottingham play with a cloth-yard shaft betwixt thy ribs.
Now I will tan thy hide till it be as many colours as a beggar's cloak, if thou darest so much as touch a string of that same bow that thou holdest in thy hands.
Oh, thou pratest like an ass. For I could send this shaft clean through thy proud heart before a curtal friar could say grace over a roast goose at Michaelmas time.
And thou pratest like a coward, for thou standest there with a good yew bow to shoot at my heart, while I have naught in my hand but a plain blackthorn staff wherewith to meet thee.
Now, by the faith of my heart, never have I had a coward's name in all my life before. I will lay by my trusty bow and arrows, and if thou darest abide my coming, I will go and cut a cudgel to test thy manhood withal.
Aye, marry, I will abide thy coming, and joyously too.
And the stranger leaned sturdily upon his staff to await Robin. Then Robin Hood stepped quickly to the cover side and cut a good staff of oak, straight without flaw and 6 feet in length, and came back, trimming away the tender stems from it, while the stranger waited for him, leaning upon his staff and whistling as he gazed round about. Robin observed him furtively as he trimmed his staff, measuring the stranger from top to toe from out of the corner of his eye, and thought that he had never seen a lustier or a stouter man. Tall was Robin, but taller was the stranger by a head and a neck, for he was 7 feet in height. Broad was Robin across the shoulders, but broader was the stranger by twice the breadth of a palm, while he measured at least an ell around the waist.
Nevertheless, I will base thy hide right merrily, my good fellow. Lo, here is my good staff, lusty and tough. Now wait my coming if thou darest, and meet me if thou fearest not. Then we will fight until one or the other of us tumble into the stream by dint of blows.
Marry, with my whole heart.
Never did the knights of King Arthur's Round Table meet in a stouter fight than did these two. In a moment, Robin stepped quickly upon the bridge where the stranger stood. First he made a feint, and then delivered a blow at the stranger's head that, had it met its mark, would have tumbled him speedily into the water. But the stranger turned the blow right deftly, and in return gave one as stout, which Robin also turned as the stranger had done. So they stood, each in his place, neither moving a finger's breadth back, for 1 good hour. And many blows were given and received by each in that time, till here and there were sore bones and bumps, yet neither thought of crying, "Enough!" nor seemed likely to fall from off the bridge. At last, Robin gave the stranger a blow upon the ribs that made his jacket smoke like a damp straw thatch in the sun. So shrewd was the stroke that the stranger came within a hair's breadth of falling off the bridge. But he regained himself right quickly, and by a dexterous blow, gave Robin a crack on the crown that caused the blood to flow. Then Robin grew mad with anger, and smote with all his might at the other. But the stranger warded off the blow and once again thwacked Robin. And this time so fairly that he fell heels over head into the water.
And where art thou now, my good lad?
In the flood and floating it down with the tide. Give me thy hand.
Here.
I must needs own thou art a brave and sturdy soul, and withal a good stout stroke with the cudgels. Oh, by this and by that, my head hummeth like a hive of bees on a hot June day.
Then Robin clapped his horn to his lips and winded a blast that went echoing sweetly down the forest paths.
Ay, Mary, thou art a tall lad and a brave one. For ne'er, I trow, is there a man betwixt here and Canterbury town could do the like to me that thou hast done.
And thou takest thy cudgeling like a brave heart and a stout yeoman.
But now the distant twigs and branches rustled with the coming of men, and suddenly a score or two of good stout yeomen, all clad in Lincoln green, burst from out the covert with merry Will Stutely at their head.
Good master, how is this? Truly, thou art all wet, from head to foot, and that to the very skin.
Why, yon stout fellow hath tumbled me neck and crop into the water, and hath given me a drubbing beside.
Then shan't he go without a ducking and a drubbing himself? Have at him,
Nay,
lads!
nay, nay! Have,
Come
forbear!
on!
He is a right good man and true,
What?
and no harm shall befall him. Now hark ye, good fellow. Wilt thou stay with me and be one of my band? 3 suits of Lincoln green shalt thou have each year, beside 40 marks in fee, and a share with us whatsoe'er good shall befall us. Thou shalt eat sweet venison and quaff the stoutest ale, and mine own good right-hand man shalt thou be, for never did I see such a cudgel player in all my life before. Speak, wilt thou be one of my good merry men?
That know I not. If you handle yew bow and apple shaft no better than you do oaken cudgel, you're not fit to be called yeoman in my country. But if there be any man here that can shoot a better shaft than I, then will I bethink me of joining with you.
Now by my faith, thou art a right saucy varlet, sirrah. Yet I will stoop to thee as I never stooped to man before. Good Stutely, cut thou a fair white piece of bark 4 fingers in breadth, and set it 80 yards distant on yonder oak.
4 and 4 score, aye.
Now, stranger, hit that fairly with a grey goose shaft, and call yourself an archer.
Aye, marry, that will I. Give me a good stout bow and a fair broad arrow, and if I hit it not, strip me and beat me blue with bowstrings.
The stranger chose the stoutest bow among them all, next to Robin's own, and a straight grey goose shaft, well feathered and smooth, then stepped to the mark, while all the band, sitting or lying upon the greensward, watched to see him shoot. He drew the arrow to his cheek and loosed the shaft right deftly, sending it so straight down the path that it clove the mark in the very center.
Mend thou that, if thou canst.
That is a keen shot indeed. Mend it I cannot, but mar it I may.
Then, taking up his own good stout bow and nocking an arrow with care, Robin shot with his very greatest skill. Straight flew the arrow, and so true that it lit fairly upon the stranger's shaft and split it to splinters.
Now, by the lusty yew bowl of good St. Withold, that is a shot indeed, and never saw I the like in all my life before. Now truly will I be thy man henceforth and for aye. Good Adam Bell was a fair shot, but he never shot so.
Then I have gained a right good man this day. What name goest thou by, good fellow?
Men call me John Little, whence I came.
Nay, fair little stranger, I like not thy name, and fain would I have it otherwise. Little art thou indeed, and small of bone and sinew. Therefore shalt thou be christened, Little John, and I'll be thy godfather.
If thou makest a jest of me, thou wilt have sore bones and little pay, and that in short season.
Nay, friend, bottle thine anger. Good Will Stutely meant no harm. The name fitteth thee well. Little John shall thou be called henceforth, and Little John shall it be. So come, my merry men, we will prepare a christening feast for this fair infant.
In the depths of the woodland, Robin and his merry band had built huts of bark and branches of trees, and made couches of sweet rushes spread over with skins of fallow deer. Here stood a great oak tree with branches spreading broadly around, beneath which was a seat of green moss, where Robin Hood was wont to sit at feast and at merrymaking with his stout men about him. Here they built a great fire, and roasted a brace of fat does, and broached a barrel of humming ale. Then, when the feast was ready and they all sat down, Robin placed Little John at his right hand, for he was henceforth to be the second in the band. When the feast was done, Will Stutely spoke up.
It's no time, boys, I ween, to christen our bonny babe, isn't it so, Mary Boy? Then 7 sponsors shall we have?
Oh, by St. Dunstan, more than one of you shall rue it if you lay finger upon me.
Come on now.
But without a word, they all ran upon him at once, seizing him by his legs and arms, and holding him tightly in spite of his struggles, and they bore him forth while all stood around to see the sport. Then came one forward who had been chosen to play the priest, because he had a bald crown, and in his hand he carried a brimming pot of ale.
Now, who bringeth this babe?
That do I.
And what name callest thou him?
Little John, I call him.
Now, Little John, thou hast not lived heretofore, but only got thee along through the world, but henceforth thou wilt live indeed. When thou livest not, thou wast called John Little, but now that thou dost live indeed, Little John shalt thou be called. So christen I thee.
And at these last words, he emptied the pot of ale upon Little John's head. The good brown ale streamed over Little John's beard and trickled from his nose and chin, while his eyes blinked with the smart of it. At first he was of a mind to be angry, but found he could not, because the others were so merry. So he, too, laughed with the rest. Then Robin took this sweet, pretty babe, clothed him all anew from top to toe in Lincoln green, and gave him a good stout bow, and so made him a member of the merry band. Now the Sheriff of Nottingham swore that he himself would bring this knave Robin Hood to justice, and for 2 reasons. First, because he wanted the £200 reward, and next, because the forester that Robin Hood had killed was of kin to him. So he planned to serve a warrant upon the bold outlaw, not knowing what a force Robin had about him in Sherwood.
A right good reward have I offered to whosoever would serve my warrant upon Robin Hood, and I marvel that no one has come to undertake the task.
Good master, thou knowest not the force that Robin Hood has about him, and how little he cares for warrant of king or sheriff. Truly no one likes to go on this service for fear of cracked crowns and broken bones.
Then I hold all Nottingham men to be cowards. But if no man in Nottingham dare win the 80 golden angels' reward, I will send elsewhere, for there should be men of mettle somewhere in this land. Messenger,
Sire.
saddle thy horse and make ready to go to Lincoln town to see whether there be some stout yeoman to do my bidding and win this reward. For by the shrine of St. Edmund I will hang this Robin Hood 40 cubits high.
Yes, sire.
So off went the messenger along the dusty highway that led from Nottingham to Lincoln. Dusty was the highway, and dusty became the throat of the messenger, so that his heart was glad when he saw before him the sign of the Blue Boar Inn. There he saw a party of right jovial fellows, seated beneath the spreading oak that shaded the greensward in front of the door. Magnificent oak. There was a tinker, 2 barefoot friars, and a party of 6 of the king's foresters, all clad in Lincoln green, and all of them were quaffing, humming ale, and singing merry ballads of the good old times.
Come, come, join us for this drink. Ho, landlord, bring a fresh pot of ale for each man.
Now what news bearest thou so fast, and whither ridest thou today?
The good Sheriff of Nottingham Town has a mind to serve the king's warrant upon that rogue Robin Hood. But no man could he find to serve this warrant, for fear of cracked pates and broken bones. I am now upon my way to Lincoln Town to find of what metal the Lincoln men be.
come I forsooth from good Banbury town, and no one nigh Nottingham, eh? Nor Sherwood either can hold cudgel with my grip. No. Why, lads, didn't I meet that mad wag Simon of Ely, even at the famous fair at Hertford town, eh? And I beat him in the ring at that place before Sir Robert of Leslie and his lady. Now, by the bright eyes of Nan of the Mill, and by mine own mother's son, and that's myself, will I, even I, what to the crab staff, meet this same Robin Hood, and if he obey not the seal of our glorious sovereign King Harry, and the warrant of the good Sheriff of Nottinghamshire, I will so bruise, beat, and bemaul his pate, that he shall never move finger nor toe again.
Good Tinker, now art thou the man for my farthing.
I bet I am.
Our good sheriff hath offered 80 angels of bright gold to whosoe'er shall serve the warrant upon Robin Hood.
Then I will go with thee, lad. I'll go with thee.
One bright morning, soon after this time, Robin Hood started off to Nottingham town to find what was a-doing there, walking merrily along the roadside where the grass was sweet with daisies. As thus he walked down a shady lane, he saw a tinker coming, trolling a merry song as he drew nigh. On his back hung his bag and his hammer, and in his hand he carried a right stout crabstaff full 6 feet long, as thick as his wrist and knotted at the end.
In peace-guard time, when hound to horn gives ear till buck be killed, and little lads with pipes of corn
good
seek
friend.
keeping beasts afield.
Hello!
I went to gather strawberries by woods and
Hello,
groves
art
full
thou
fair.
deaf man?
And who art thou, dost so boldly check a fair song? Hello, thine own self, whether thou be good friend or no. But let me tell thee, thou stout fellow, if thou be a good friend, it were well for us both. But if thou be no good friend, it were ill with thee.
And whence comest thou, my lusty blade?
Oh, I come from Banbury.
Alas, I hear there is sad news this merry morn.
Is indeed so. Prithee, tell it speedily. I'm a tinker by trade, and I'm greedy for news, even as a priest is greedy for farthings.
Well then, list thou, and I will tell. But bear thyself up bravely, for the news is sad. I hear that 2 tinkers are in the stocks for drinking ale and beer.
Tinkers, a plague seize thee in thy news, thou scurvy dog, for thou speakest but ill of good men. But sad news it is, if there be 2 stout fellows in the stocks.
Nay, thou hast missed the mark, and dost but weep for the wrong sow. The sadness of the news lieth in that there be but 2 in the stocks, for the others do roam the country at large.
Oh, now by the pewter platter of St. Dunstan, I've a good part of a mind to baste thy hide for thine ill jest. But if men be put in the stocks for drinking ale and beer, I trow thou wouldst not lose thy part either.
Well taken, Tinker, well taken. Why, thy wits are like beer, and do froth up most when they grow sour. But right art thou, man, for I love ale and beer right well. Therefore come straightway with me hard by to the sign of the Blue Boar, and I will drench thy throat with as good home brewed as ever was tapped in all broad Nottinghamshire.
By my faith, thou art a right good fellow, in spite of thy scurvy jests. I love thee, my sweet chuck, and if I go not with thee to that same Blue Boar, thou mayst call me a heathen.
Tell me thy news, good friend, as we go. For tinkers, I know, are all as full of news as an egg of meat.
Oh, I have in hand a grave undertaking that doth call for all my wits. I come to seek a bold outlaw that men hereabouts call, Robin Hood. Yes, within my pouch I have a warrant all fairly written out on parchment, forsooth, with a great red seal for to make it lawful. Now, could I but meet this same Robin Hood, I would serve it upon his dainty body, and if he minded it not, I'd beat him till every one of his ribs would cry Amen. I would, but thou livest hereabouts. Perhaps thou knowest Robin Hood thyself, good fellow.
Aye, marry, that I do somewhat. And I have seen him this very morn. But, good tinker,
Yes.
men say that he is a sly thief. Thou hadst better watch thy warrant, or else he may steal it out thy very pouch.
No, let him but try. Sly may he be, but sly am I too. I would I had him here, now, man to man. But what manner of man is he, lad?
Much like myself.
Oh.
And in height and build and age nigh the same. And he hath blue eyes too.
Nay, thou art but a green youth. I thought Robin Hood to be a great, bearded man. Nottingham men feared him so.
Truly he is not so old nor so stout as thou art.
Oh.
But men do call him a right deft hand at quarterstaff.
Well, that may be, but I'm more deaf than he. For didn't I overcome Simon of Ely in a fair bout in the ring at Hertford Town? But if thou know'st him, my jolly blade, wilt thou go with me and bring me to him? 80 bright angels hath the sheriff promised me, if I serve the warrant upon the knave's body, and 10 of them will I give to thee, if thou show'st me him.
Aye, that will I.
Go.
But show me thy warrant, that I may see whether it be good or no.
No, that will I not do, even to mine own brother. No man shall see my warrant till I serve it upon that rascal Robin Hood.
So be it. If thou show it not to me, I know not to whom thou wilt show it.
Well,
But here we are at the sign of the Blue Boar. So let us in and taste his brown October.